We are here for a very special reason. A lady who needs no introduction, but she's still getting on, and a fantastic, award-winning, best-selling author of the Outlander series. So please give a very loud cheer for Diana Gabaldon. Bravo. That was beautiful. I'm very impressed. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I'd forgotten to ask if you knew how I pronounced my last name.
Well, I hope I did it justice.
You came close. Yeah.
Room for improvement, I like that. So the first part of our discussion this afternoon is going to be questions from the fans on Facebook.
Absolutely.
So, we're going to kick it off with a question from Diane Rogers. She says, it's so interesting to watch the series and see the characters come to life. She knows the actors are of necessity greatly influenced by the novels. Do you find yourself influenced by the actors, and has your vision of the characters changed in any way?
No.
Pure and simple, no.
No, I'm entirely capable of holding two separate images in my mind.
Do you think there will have been any blurring between them, or they always stay completely separate?
Well, I can't see any reason why that should change, no. I mean, in terms of where the story is, I'm about 30 years beyond where they're filming. I can't see how anything they did could affect what I do now.
There we have it. The next question comes from, excuse me if I pronounce any of your names wrong today, guys, Ali Manley, who asks, do you ever look back on pieces of your books in hindsight and wish later that you'd written something differently? And is there anything you would change now in your past books given the chance?
No, I really wouldn't. I mean, there may be small bits here where I think I could tighten that up a bit, but that's just, stylistic sorts of things, nothing to do with the story. Essentially, I made two rules for myself when I began to write my practice novel, which turned out to be Outlander. And those were, I would write the entire book, no matter how bad I thought it was. I would get from one end to the other. The second rule was that I would do the absolute best I could with it every day. So I've kept those two rules throughout. If I did my best, I can't do it better now.
I think we can all agree it is very, very good. The next question comes from Pam Kirkland-Garvin, who said, when did it hit you that the TV series was going to be, or was successful in doing your story justice? Were there any meetings? Was it a casting when you saw it, or did it kind of gradually build for you?
It was sort of an accretion, but I began to have a positive feeling about it when Ron Moore and his production partner, Merle Davis, came out to my house to discuss the project. This was after they had sort of taken it, so to speak, so I knew they were going to do it, but we did not yet have a distributor. We didn't know whether we would have Starz, Netflix, whatever, if anybody would take it. If no one had taken it, it wouldn't happen. And so anyway, they came out just to discuss things, and we talked over our sense of characters, the storylines, and so forth. And we were very much on the same page as to what constitutes a good story, and what's a good conflict, and that sort of thing. And Ron said, the book starts fairly slowly, and you can do that in a book because the narrative kind of pulls you along. Said you can't do that in a TV show. You have to fix the people's attention right then because you've only got 30 seconds before they change the channel. So he said, rather than start where the book starts, I'd like to have sort of a little visual 2-minute prologue. It's all about Claire. She's the central character in the beginning, and we need to focus immediately on who she is, what she's about. So I'd like to do this little prologue, actually set during World War II, before Outlander really starts. But we see her doing what she does, healing and blood squirting and all this sort of stuff. I'm going, yeah, totally. So, I had a fairly good feeling about it, and that's been borne out.
The next question comes from Barbara Steinberg. You've created so many characters in your book. I'm thinking particularly of all the people at the gathering in the Fiery Cross?
The Fiery Cross, yes.
Do you ever forget any of them and then rediscover them?
No, not really. Sometimes I'll forget a minor character's name. As my husband says, even the people who answer the door have a name. Which makes them real. But we have 2 nonfiction volumes called The Outlandish Companions, Volume 1 and 2, which go along with the series, and these are nonfiction. They contain all kinds of stuff. But one of the things they contain is a cast of characters, which I think at last update contained 1,500 people, all with names and where they go in the story. So, should I ever be lost, I could look it up.
The next question comes from Elaine Range. she's curious about the use of vocabulary in your books. Do some of your more obscure words kind of just burst forth from you, or do you search for them? Do you kind of find them in everyday life?
I would basically I'm in possession of most of those to start with. You know, occasionally, I mean, I've known I've squatulate forever. But, well, I came from the sort of family that, you know, would look up words in the dictionary for fun. You know, we would just go down the page until we found a new one and go, listen to this. But, so, you know, I just have a large vocabulary. But, you know, I do acquire specialized terms from, you know, botanical research or medicine or something, just as part of the research, or, you know, from historical terms from reading the primary source material. Those tend to be accidental, though.
The next question comes from May Kessler. She says, knowing that all this comes from you, how does your family and your husband deal with knowing that inside you are Jack Black, Duke of Sandringham, J.D. Frank, Claire, and Mother Hilda?
They're nothing in Jack Black. Well, my family seems to deal with it pretty easily.
Do they have a choice?
No. I mean, they've been living with me all this time. I suppose they figure it's harmless. No, there is a group of fans who live near me, and they invite me out to tea every once in a while to pick my brains about what's happening. And on one of these occasions, they got started on the character of Blackjack Crandall. They were saying, oh, he's disgusting, he makes my skin crawl, he's so loathsome, he's such scum. And I'm sitting there sipping my tea thinking, you have no idea you're talking to Blackjack Crandall. My husband always knows.
The next question comes from Belinda K. Scarberry-Hinkle, which is an amazing name, and I'm nothing to say. I would love to see them work your novellas into a TV series somehow. Do you think there's any chance that they would be working them for a TV?
Working into TV?
As in the novellas, like the short novellas.
Oh, the novellas. They might. I gave Ron and Meryl the text of Virgins, which is a novella, which deals with Jamie and Ian's adventures as young mercenaries before Outlander starts. And they did, in fact, adapt some of the dialogue from that into episode 11, I think it was, of the first season. So they've used bits and pieces. I don't know if they would actually ever do a spin-off series of the novellas, because they tend to be, you know, shorter than the average, but I mean, shorter than the average novel. They're a lot longer than the average short story. The answer is, I have no idea.
The next question comes from Malin Walkenvist Rimby. I'm sorry again, once again. J.K. Rowling said that she wrote the last chapter of Harry Potter series first and kept it in a safe all those years. Do you know already how book 10 and the entire series will end, or will it be as much of a surprise to you as it will be to us?
I know how it ends, I just haven't got any idea how we get there.
That's half the battle then, so you're fine. The next question comes from Donna Rust Class. Can you give us an insight on where you write and what surroundings you surround yourself with while you're writing?
Well, I write in an office, usually. I have an office, which actually looks like the inside of Miss Havisham's wedding cake most of the time. No kidding, cobwebs entirely. I have a family of daddy long-legged spiders who live in the upper corners of my office. I leave them alone because they catch all the moths and mosquitoes who come in. Basically, it doesn't matter where I am. I can write anywhere. I write on a laptop for ease, and so I take it in and out. You know, when the dogs want to go out, I just take it out to the backyard, sit under a tree, and write till they want to come in. And you know, I can carry it around with me. I work while I'm on the road. I write in the middle of the night. So you know, the last few nights I've been perched on a little sofa, which is roughly half the width of this chair. But ways, and I just don't twitch much. So yeah, I can write anywhere, because when I'm writing, I'm not where I am, I'm in the book.
Do you have any specific rituals when you write, or is it very just kind of like organic and just float out of you?
Well, really, aside from getting a Diet Coke to wake up with, the only ritual I have is that I usually light a candle before I start and kind of, you know, focus myself with a brief prayer. And it's real brief. It just says, let me see what I need to see. Let me do what needs to be done.
And the final question, so everyone get ready, is from Anna Critchin, who says, with so much research needed to write historical fiction, how do you know when to stop researching? At what point do you feel you have enough information, or do you research as you write?
I research as I write. because when I made up my mind to write historical fiction, I knew a lot of people who were writing historical fiction, but what they were really doing was just researching. And, they would say things like, oh, well, I'm going, to Crete next month, and then I will have this specific piece of information that I need, and, then I can go ahead and plan chapter 2. Yeah. So, I wrote Outlander for practice. I wasn't going to show it to anyone. I wasn't aiming to have it published. Consequently, it didn't really matter what was in the book. I wanted it to be as good as possible. But I chose historical fiction because I thought I was a researcher. I was a research professor, and I knew my way around a library. Said it seems easier to look things up than to make things up, and if I turn out to have no imagination, I can steal things from the historical record, which works really well. And so I said, fine, but the point here is not to learn everything about Scotland in the 18th century. The point is to learn how to write a novel. So I said I will begin doing the research at the same time I begin doing the writing. I want the book to be as good and as accurate as it can be, of course. But, if I'm writing along and I write something and then 2 months later I find something in the research that contradicts that, I'll change it. It's words on the page. What could be easier? So it's not a problem.
And there you have it. Thank you so much. That was the last question. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live. Diana's new book is out on the 29th of June. It is called 27th? 27th. I was thought
you have it on the 29th. The US gets it on the 27th.
Well, there you go. That's the US. US get it, UK get it, Australia get it everywhere. Just buy it.
So, yeah.
It's called 7 Stones to Stand or Fall. It's a book of Outlander short stories. And what can you tell us about it, very briefly?
Well, thank you. It is a collection of novellas. 2 of them are actually short stories. Well, actually only 1 in this book. Short story is something less than 18,000 words. All of the others are novellas, which is anything between 18 and 60,000. The longest of these is 50,000 words. Most of the others are 30 to 35. So, it's a nice hefty book. 5 of these novellas have been published over the last 5 or 6 years in different anthologies. But a lot of people say to me, well, I don't want to write an anthology of stories by a lot of other people. I just want to read yours, which is very flattering, but not good news for the anthology. The thing is, though, that you get back the rights. Once you've given a story to an anthology, 1 or 2 years later, you can republish it as you like. So in the US, I've been republishing these as they come back to me as ebooks. And I get a lot of people saying, well, I don't want to read ebooks, I want a book in print. And so I said, okay, well, we will make a print volume and everybody will be happy. And while I'm at it, I will add in these 2 novellas that I have been planning to write without putting them in an anthology first. So you will get 2 never before published anywhere novellas. One of these is called A Fugitive Green, and it is the story of Lord John's elder brother Hal, who is about 25 at the time of this story, and his not-quite wife, Minerva, who at the time of this story is a 17-year-old forger with a sideline in blackmail. That should be good. And then the final story is called Besieged, and this is a Lord John Grey story. The basic premise is that he is visited by his stepfather, who informs him that his mother is in Havana, Cuba. And he says, I hope she's having a good time. And the stepfather says, well, I hope she is. The thing, my boy, is that the British Navy is on its way to invade Cuba, and I think it would be a good idea if she weren't there when they arrive. So that ends Besieged, but I think you'll enjoy both of those.
There you have it. So can we give a massive round of applause to Diana. Thank you so much for